Getting learn to hate me. Getting learn to hate me, hate me.
Hello and welcome to the Get in Line to Hate Me podcast.
We are unbelievably so at episode 4.
That's crazy.
Which we
just
did-
started this.
We did 3 in one day. So
We were motivated.
we were going.
That's all I can say.
We did discuss starting this one a little differently. Remember, do you have... Oh, shoot.
We did. Let me get my phone. I have it.
It's
I
not on
have
your
it.
phone, though. It's on mine. Okay.
No.
Well, we'll start with mine.
We'll start with yours and we'll end with, how do we end with? Oh, you could just say one you remember from mine.
Okay. All right.
Can't you do that?
So we have this thing where we keep a catalog of all of the off-the-wall fun things, silly, goofy, funny things. We say she has a wild brain. I'm definitely like more dad humor centric,
For sure.
but I don't know. We started keeping track in like 2022 probably.
That is correct.
And so we're going to open our podcast with a Kirstenism or a Courtneyism and end with one. So you guys get a little bit of our humor in the process.
It's not all serious on here all the time. All right, so Kirstenisms. The first one I'm going to read off seems pretty perfect
Apropos.
for today. If I'm going to be sad about life, at least I can do it over a cup of coffee.
The original quote, she did not write that correctly.
I'm
It was,
sorry.
if I'm going to be sad about life, it might as well be over a cup of coffee.
I'm sorry. Well, that's fine. Oh, it might as well, at least.
That's fine.
Okay.
And I would absolutely agree with that. Coffee brings me a joy.
I don't drink coffee for a number of reasons, so it
Give your
doesn't
smoothie.
doesn't bring me
Does
joy.
your smoothie bring you
Oh my
joy?
gosh, yes, my smoothies always bring
That was
me.
a terrible clink.
Sorry.
Clink.
My smoothies my smoothies always bring me joy. So yes, they do.
Okay. So kicking this one off, this one's a little bit different. No, it's not. I lied. It's very much Get in Line to Hate Me. It is very on theme. We woke up this morning and we were talking about the life of an artist and how we exist online. And I don't think that I think a lot of people take that for a grain of salt. And I'm often in conversation circles where I feel like people do not take me seriously when I bring up this topic. And this topic is artists absolutely have to have a community and an audience for our souls to not corrode, basically. And
That's one of the many reasons.
one
they
of the
need
many
it.
reasons. And an argument that I see often online, and I understand its perspective and I understand its purpose, right? But it can come off a little bit degrading when you read about it. And this is the argument. The argument that I have seen and read is don't let people's lack of involvement and engagement in what you do and what you create sort of depict your worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
While I understand that, and I absolutely would agree with the worth part, what this ends up spiraling into, I guess, becomes less about worth and more about put up and shut up as the independent artist, small business, small creator, whatever, because what is expected of you is to endlessly give your all, everything. You lay it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
What then is expected by the world around you is to deal with the negative consequences and never talk about it.
Yeah, I to add on to that, I personally think this is a personal opinion. So take it or leave it, whatever, grain of salt, like mom would say. I think part of that conversation lacks accountability.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It says that now it's the artist's job to do everything. We spoon feed you everything, and you don't have to do any work
Yes.
or involvement to help us.
Yeah.
When in the olden days, before there was any social media, How did they
communities.
find these people?
Right. And the thing is,
There was a loyal community.
yeah. I was just gonna say that.
Just because it looks differently now doesn't mean they didn't have any accountability back then.
Right. Like, let's go to Elvis, for example.
As an excellent one to
He
use.
gets discovered at a fair. There are a lot of people at this fair. And then what ends up happening is his manager, who was a very toxic, nasty person, but that is absolutely not the point of this story. His manager said, we're going to get you on whatever we can get you on. We're going to get you in front of audiences through radio, television, which doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It was a radio show, right? Like, you came, you performed in front of a sold out audience, and that gave you kind of this leg up of, I actually physically saw faces in the audience that I got to perform to. And then that is what kind of starts to build your loyal following. Now we have this complete, I would never have to show my face if I didn't want to, outside of like touring.
Sure.
But you could be a totally invisible artist, and you never have to see who hears your music, and they never have to see you. You could quite literally show up that way. And some accounts do this. They never show their face. The weird thing about that is what you said, Courtney. No accountability. See, I can invisibly follow you, and there's this term now, and it's called
What's the evil
a silent follower or something. Or
well, they're calling it several things.
Well,
now.
it's
Like evil watchers.
no, it's
or-
not that. It's like a silent watcher. It's like, I've been
Okay.
a silent watcher for years.
Yeah.
See, I feel like we need to enter a space where that's not a thing anymore. I think we need verbal watchers. We need people who
agree.
engage, interact, who talk to you about your art back to you. And we're not asking for the moon and the stars, because this existed at some point. I remember the dawn of Instagram,
Agreed. It
and
was all about
everybody
affirmation.
was all over your stuff. You could post a selfie and your friends would get on and be like, oh my gosh, how was your Monday? This does not happen anymore.
Yeah.
And to prove my point, go on and put a question on your story and see who sees it versus who answers. Now, I don't know. You may have a totally different following, but I almost can guarantee
That the
most
collective.
people are going to be like, one person answered
Yeah.
me. Okay?
Or my favorite thing is they like the story.
Right. Can we discuss that real quick, actually?
Why are you doing that?
Liking a story doesn't do anything. I'm just going to let that hang in the balance for a minute. It does nothing for anybody. It does not help feed my content to the algorithm. It does not help me. It doesn't tell me anything about you. Versus sending a comment and saying anything else besides this empty movement. And I'm guilty of it. I have done it and not sent a comment. But you bet your boots, going forward, I'm going to be as intentional with my friends as I possibly can be. Now I want to paint a new picture. So we've talked about all of this.
Say,
I want to come over to a side of how quickly this could change.
Yeah.
One influential person saying, let's get back to an intentional, communication driven concept of Instagram, specifically Instagram,
Yeah.
but social media as a whole. Let's have that video go viral and hit 40 million views. All of a sudden, we could see a change in how people respond on Instagram. This is all it takes. It takes one person to say, enough is enough. Why are we so apathetic? And I have the answer for that.
Oh.
When are we going to change? When are we going to say we have to be better than this? One person, one influential person, and we would start to see a wave happen.
Yeah.
But because we're small, and because in the eyes of most people, we're insignificant,
Exactly.
I can't get the wave rolling the way they could. But how is it that we took a back seat for so long? We know the answer.
Yeah. We do know the answer. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but it needs to be said, and that's why we have this podcast. The influencer movement helped create a narrative that now nobody wants to talk about or they don't want to go up against. Again, for fear of losing things. It's all about, you notice how much fear is involved in so much of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The fact that we allowed influencers to dictate, and I'm going to use that word, everything that we did or didn't do or followed, or every trend we hopped on, we have forgotten to think for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've forgotten to think for ourselves, we've forgotten what it feels like to affirm someone for all the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are just throwing out, like, people even throw out like blind compliments.
Yeah.
I don't even know why they're
Right.
complimenting something.
Obviously, we're all an influencer to a point, right? Because if I say something to you and then you go take action on that, I've influenced you to make a decision.
Sure.
But there was such a level of influencing, especially 2024, where I felt like it just got so ramped up that it was so incessant and inane that it didn't have anyone questioning it. It would just be, get on. And I tried this new thing. I tried this new thing. Oh, this new glitter lip gloss. And then 3 days later, a new glitter lip gloss. It just was truly the definition to me of blind following the blind.
Oh, for sure.
To the point now, we are so conditioned to have somebody tell us what to do that we're not thinking anymore. And we are not forming our own thought process. And it's one of the reasons I struggle with trends in general.
Yeah.
Because it was somebody somewhere that said, I'm going to condition you to like this because I'll just show it to you over and over and over and over again. That's what conditioning is. That is what that is. You see it, you become numb to it, and then you buy into it. And now what you're doing is you're waiting for somebody to say it's changed or you'll stay in this pattern. Instead of waking up in the morning and saying, I really do not like the fisherman aesthetic. That's really not my vibe. I just tend to dress more romantic and classic. I'm going to stick to that. I feel like there are few people who are doing that. I think that uniqueness now is a rarity. And we've kind of tippy-toed on this in the other podcasts.
I think it's always going to find its way into
It is.
the melting pot
It
because
is.
the origin story of everything we're talking about is inside of genuinity.
Yeah.
It flows freely.
Yeah.
If you think about the blind leading the blind, that's because someone told them to. So they're not doing it because they want to.
Right.
So
I don't know, but we sucked up the message that it's okay to take a back seat to our friendships online. And then we're waiting for somebody to tell us it's no longer okay to take the back seat. But it has to be somebody influential, which brings me to the next thing we talked about this morning, which was why in the world are we putting recognition, affirmation, encouragement, and money and time into people who are already influential, are already famous, already have celebrity, and we will bend over backwards and we will say, kiss both of my butt cheeks, baby, because this is what I want. But we will not do that for the small person that actually needs it. And I will drive this point home the rest of my
life.
existence. I absolutely will. Quit getting in line for everyone famous and being up their butt about everything if you are not going to do that with the people that need you to do it, the us of the world, the people who are scraping and clawing to get 25 likes on Instagram. 25. Do you know what we regularly get?
Do you know how sad?
2
Yeah.
to 6.
Do you know how sad that is? And I'm not even going to pretend Like, let's put humility aside, because there's a place and time for everybody to stay humble. And then there are times when you just got to tell people, you
How it
know,
is.
eat shit and die.
Yes.
Like, for real, not to be real, but to be real. There is no place anymore for Kirsten and I to sit around and say, oh, well, maybe we just need to work on this and we need to hone this.
Right. Right.
No more.
Right.
We are so succinct. We are so original. We are so beautiful when we do what we do.
Yeah.
We are so thought-provoking. We are compassionate driven. We speak about topics that involve the entire world, no matter what race, religion, or creed you end up with. And you have still turned such a blind eye.
And
It's incredible to me.
the thing about this is we could wake up tomorrow and we could hit 10 million views on a video.
That would be outstanding.
And then all of a sudden people would be like, oh my gosh, you guys are phenomenal. How did you not blow up before this? I want to make this very, very clear and as succinct, I guess, as I possibly could. There is no difference between what Kelly Clarkson does on a cover on the Kelly Clarkson Show and what we do with a cover sitting in our studio. And I'm not talking about vocal
No.
differences. I'm talking about celebrity differences. I'm talking about standout, unique differences.
Exactly.
The only difference is the fact that, thank God, somebody had their ears glued to their face on American Idol when they chose her to be the winner.
Exactly.
The only difference is somebody propped her up early in her career and said, yep, you're going to go to the top. The only difference is she got heard, we didn't. And the smallest fix to this equation is engagement. That's what's crazy.
That's what it is.
That's what's crazy. If I had 100 people in my corner, 100 people who said, anytime Revy posts, I will be on it. I will listen to the full video and then I will put my comments in at the end. And after I put my comment in, I will share. I had 100 people doing that. I can almost guarantee you
We would have already
we'd be
raised
hitting
our levels.
100 to 300,000 views on videos because I've seen it happen. I've seen when something hits somebody and they've chosen to take the time out and it's like in the first 5 to 8 minutes of posting,
Oh, yeah.
it's viewed and who it's viewed by, they then take action. I have seen those videos do extremely well
Yes.
on our platform.
Well, we had it with that little bit of virality.
Yeah.
Something sparked them to do that. And then all of a sudden, no more. It's like they did that once for Revy and you don't get it again.
Right. So
Is that how you think affirmation works in the first place?
this boils back down to how we started this conversation, which is if we don't talk about this, nothing changes. And also, artists everywhere, and I'm specifically speaking to artists because that's what I am. Artists everywhere, but it goes to small businesses, it goes to small creators,
Absolutely.
handmade makers, people who have been thrown into the pit of wolves because why would we care about that?
Yeah.
That's how society has treated it. Why would we care about that? And why would we care about it if nobody has told us to care about it?
You know, that
realize-
doesn't have an Amazon link, so I'm not paying attention to
That's
that.
how silly it is. That's how silly it is.
They're not giving me 25% off on
Yeah.
a Black Friday deal.
You haven't
They
heard-
don't need to give you 25% off.
You haven't heard some big name say, you need to go check out Rethrive guitar string jewelry. You have never seen this in your life before. So you guys don't know how to think for yourselves. You don't know how to admire art and beauty with your own eyes.
And determine whether or not
You like it.
you like it. Whether another soul came up to you and said, that's the ugliest piece of crap I've ever seen, you would validate it.
Yep.
That's what is missing in society today. When a person can get on and say, I didn't like that movie, but another person gets on and says, but I did like that movie.
Right.
backbone.
Absolutely. And
We lost the backbone of America.
for sure, we've lost, I think we even said this before, we've lost the art of critiquing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we could go
And
in
some of y'all
on that one.
Could use a heavy dose of critique.
Critiquing.
But a lot of artists have felt that hurt, and they have felt the sting of cultural rejection. And culture expects us to just deal and to gracefully, happily.
I'm so happy I have
Quietly deal.
5 people who like me.
Yes.
You
No.
know what? After 12
not.
years, I should have 50,000 of you.
Absolutely. It long gone are the days where I get on and I'm like, well, I'm just thankful that a couple of you saw it.
No.
And I am thankful.
Yes.
I'm thankful, but I am raising the bar for more. And we have been silenced in Nashville specifically because we spoke out about it.
Yeah.
And people didn't like that we disciplined you.
Yeah.
And we said, how dare you put artists on the back burner like this? And it started as a conversation for all artists. Obviously,
it is for all.
there's a passion for us as well. We're in the thick of it, dealing with it. But it's the concept more than for the artist. It's the concept
I agree.
of, really? You're going to make me lay down and let you run over me and never put up a fight in return? We don't expect anybody else on this planet to do that.
We certainly don't expect that
Except
in athletics.
Small artists, small people
Yeah.
that have not made a name for themselves. But we don't ask anybody else to take abuse without a fighting response
in return.
in return. And we're seeing that right now with the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation.
Oh my gosh.
If Justin had said,
Give me a break.
you know what, Blake can sue me. She can. I'll be fine. I'll figure it out. I'm not going to say anything. And he never showed up with receipts, and he never showed up with proof, and he never talked about his side of the story. We would have thought, no, Justin, you deserve a chance to give your answer, your side of the story. People would have said, why is he just taking this? Because we expect it from everybody. We expect everybody to say, you're not going to treat me like this. In fact, it's a topic in therapy all the time. What is a boundary for you? And expressing the boundary. So we lay this responsibility on everybody except for
people who we do not deem
worthy
of it.
Absolutely. But for some reason,
Talk about
it's heavily on the independent, unsigned
artists.
tiny singer-songwriter musician.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And it is on the makers. And I've seen this, and I'm not
Yep.
talking, and this is going to be another podcast. I'm not talking about the person who orders their chain and their charms and their lobster claws and they put it together and call it handmade. That is not handmade.
No, you're just manufacturing
That is
something.
hand assembled, and that is it. But what my mother does and what we do is we sit down with something that is nothing close to the end result, and we create from that place. My
Exactly.
mom takes a guitar string and she creates an entire piece via the guitar string, not assembling a bunch of pre-made things somewhere and putting it together. So the person that is assembling from the ground up, they're making from the ground up, they also have this mantle laid on them by culture saying, put up, shut up, show up with joy, show up with a smile on your face and say, thank you for being here. But we don't expect that from anyone else. And it's only when you have been ascribed fame that you can get out of that boat and say that
This is a
society
boundary.
no longer expects that. Something about getting a name to you where you can demand anything. Not anything, but a whole lot.
Oh, you
and
demand a lot.
you get to express your side of the story.
Yeah.
And if you weren't or you didn't, people would wonder why you're not talking about it. But we put it on.
Mm-hmm.
We put it on the people like us, like the handmade creator.
I think what's
And I'm tired of it.
crazy to me, and we'll begin to wrap this up. I think what's crazy to me is that the people who have shelved us were artists themselves. And how freaking dare you?
Unreal.
Wow.
It started.
What a coward behavior you have displayed.
It started with, and this might leak into the next podcast. It started with us speaking privately and separately, not on our music channel, but on our own personal pages. It was specifically a Facebook page, but we discussed our moral standings in the world and our biblical principles.
Nobody likes that.
How dare you? What's so funny, and perfect segue, and we're going to close here because this is going to go in the next one. What's so funny about that is that the reverse of this is that I have supported endlessly artists that I did not agree with, their political, moral, religious leanings, but it never, ever was a cause for question about if I supported your art or not. Okay. So we're going
Yeah.
to end there. That's
was-
going to go into the next
That
one.
was juicy.
We're ending with a Courtneyism because we
Okay.
did the
Yeah.
Kirstenism. One of my favorite ones, and maybe no one is going to get this, but the way that it struck me that day, we're going down an escalator in the Green Hills Mall, and I swear I almost fell over the escalator. There was so much hilarity in that momentum that I was like, what are you talking about? So if you don't know, Courtney has dyslexia. The way that this presents itself is not like a lot of what people understand about dyslexia. And
We could have a whole podcast on that.
dyslexia is much more than that. But it's not just getting things backwards, and it's not just reading backwards. For Courtney, it is like she'll skip a couple steps in conversation, or she'll miss like a main central theme. And this is what happened this day. So we're rolling down the escalator. She looks over to the right
I'm so embarrassed by this.
to the Claire's, and with so much exuberation that I thought she was celebrating an early birthday, she goes, Kirsten, did you know that you can get your second ear piercing done at Claire's? Fully thrilled. And I just busted out laughing, and I looked at her and I said, Of course you can get your second.
get
you
all
can
of
get
them.
you could get a fifth, a 12th, a third. You can actually just get your ears pierced at Claire's. But that's the beauty of Courtney is she has this childlike wonder wrapped up in something that's so general and so simple. And the fact that your eyes lit up like a kid at Christmas. Like she had discovered gravity, honey. Like
It was a
it,
bit like
it was.
that.
It was like, oh, did you know that they'll pierce your second ear piercing at Claire's? Yes, I did know that because they'll pierce your first ear piercing at Claire's. And on that note, you have watched the 4th episode of
The Get in Line to Hate Me podcast.
We'll see you on the next one.
Get in